They fly now? They fly now!
Alright, let's get right into this. Finally getting another review out. The Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the Indigo Disc, Hidden Treasure of Area Zero DLC review out. Before we fully get into it, I'd like to cover a couple things. I would like to say thank you to the TheDataByteChannel, a good friend of mine, and Pokefan moderator on this channel for some of my live streams. Thank you to them for helping me get this footage recorded for the multiplayer portions of the DLC. And I would also like to point out that there will be some very random things involving an item called the Synchro Machine throughout this video. So there will be a little notification warning for those on screen. Alright, with that, let's get right into it. We'll start simply with the story of the Indigo Disc. After the events of the base game and the teal mask, you get the option to go on an exchange program to a school called the Blueberry Academy, which is a weird, off in the middle of the ocean school, all dedicated to battling. That's not ominous to send 11-year-olds to at all. You meet Director Criano, however you want to say his name. Here's a crappy drawing of him. He invites you. Once you get there, you meet some of the one of the Elite Four members, Lacey, who demonstrates that all battles on the BBA are double battles. So after learning all of this, you go down, meet some of the other students that you would have met. You met Carmine and Kiaran in the teal mask. Kiaran is now very uptight and the champion of the BBA. You meet the other members of the Elite Four, in addition to Lacey, being Crispin, Drayton, and Amaris? I don't know. She's literally the most boring Elite Four member I've ever seen. After this, you essentially have to just complete the Elite Four challenges throughout the very artificial environment called the Terrarium. That's underwater, but still looks like it's outside in the middle of the day. Interesting stuff. As you complete each Elite Four member, you're cheered on by the Dragon Elite Four member Drayton, because he used to be the champion and now wants to get revenge on Kiaran through you, since you seem like you're powerful enough to beat Kiaran. As you progress, it's been so long now since I actually played it, but once you get to Kiaran, you beat him. He actually provides one of the harder battles in the entire game. And now he feels like he has nothing left since you've taken everything from him. But Miss Breyer, one of the teachers, and the person who was in charge of the school field trip to Kitakami and the Teal Mask, and was absolutely horrible at her job, gets permission to go visit the depths of Area Zero from the worst champion I've ever met, Gita, of the Paldea region. And she gets permission to take you, Carmine, and Kiaran down as protection. Yes, we're using 11-year-olds as bodyguards now. As you go down there, you discover a new Terra type called the Stellar Terra type, which, for all intents and purposes, is pointless. Sorry to say it, but it's the truth. You eventually make it deep down enough to discover some of the professors, the professor from the base game, Sada or Toro, some of their discoveries, and the fact that they were down here at some point. You make your way down here using the item, the Indigo Disc. Deep within the depths of Area Zero is a legendary Pokemon called Terapagos, a small crystal turtle that can shift time, space, and reality. It's never quite explained thoroughly, but it's it's what gives the terrestrial phenomenon to all the regions that we've discovered it in. Uh, and since it has time-based powers, it's believed that that's the reason some Pokemon have come back to life, like the Loyal Three in the Teal Mask. So Kieran, in a very weird, desperate act, uses his Master Ball, which makes sense because you are rewarded a Master Ball for becoming the champion of the BBA. Makes perfect sense. So obviously, since he became champion, he'd have one. But he uses it on Terapagos and actually catches it, forcing you to battle with him. Uh, Obviously, you beat him again because his desperation does not equal power, and it's just a little baby turtle. Uh, he tries to overpower it with Terra energy, causing it to break out of the Master Ball that he caught it with. And now it's a super powerful boss that you have to defeat. And Kiara just needs to get over himself and help you out. Upon beating it, you catch Terapagos, return home, and now everything is all better. You're friends again, and we all move on. Everything's good. In addition to the regular story, there's also a little side portion you can partake in, which involves catching 2 new Paradox Pokemon based on some legendaries from older games, depending on which version you are playing, involving the character Perrin from the Teal Mask, the photographer. Somehow she got a job at the BBA. Doesn't make much sense. She has some old photos revealing the Pokemon and where they might be lurking in Area 0. So, you catch them, and that's basically all that has to offer as part of the story. And is there any story left? Oh. Oh. Yeah. After the DLC, about a month after the DLC released, they put out a little event code that you could redeem. Well, not a code, but an event you could redeem. Only if you've played the DLC or own the DLC to get the mythical Pokemon Pecharunt, or the Japanese name that I much prefer, Momowaru, being poisonous peach, essentially, if you directly translated it. This is the Pokemon responsible for creating the Loyal 3. It's a small little poison ghost Pokemon that can create mochi that mind controls people. Half of his story is just on a small little YouTube video where the reliability of it is questionable. But in this DLC, he controls the entirety of the region of Kitakami, leaving only you and Kiaran not controlled. You also invited your friends from the Paldea region, Arvin, Penny, and Nimona. They get mind controlled. Yeah. It's a little all over the place. It's not anything major. Doesn't teach you a whole ton. It just gives a couple characters moments to interact with each other that didn't get a chance to before. Also unlocks some content in the DLC itself, which since it's not limited time like most mythical events are, it makes me not hate that part as much. And you can easily hack the item in later on once online functionality is gone, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a small little side story to flesh out the mythical Pokemon a little bit. Essentially, a post game to the DLC. Gameplay wise, this is easily one of the most difficult, like normal Pokemon games you could play. From what I've seen. Every battle is a double battle, and they actually have items and use strategies that you wouldn't expect from a normal NPC at all. Like galvanize explosion, turning a normal type explosion into an electric type move. Uh, and a lot of other weird tricks like that. I have to really give them props. It's fun. I had to really think about what I did for some of the battles, even against regular trainers, just in the BBA. It's a test of skill if you're not prepared. And you better come prepared, because even if you are prepared, it will at least have you struggle every once in a while. The Kiaran battle legitimately gave me a tough time. Even refighting Kiaran afterwards through the post game content is pretty tricky. Whereas in other characters I can rebattle, I can usually just wall them since it's single battles. Some new. With this, we were given a new map of the Blueberry Academy itself, which comprises of 4 regions, giving us a couple things like regional variants of Pokemon we haven't seen in a while, like Alolan forms for Executor, Grimer, and the Galarian form of Slowpoke, and Alolan Geodude, as well as Cantonian Tauros in one area. You know, they put in a few of them, but they didn't put all of them in, despite the ability to do that. Like Alolan Raichu, you could have easily made that part of it, but they just chose not to. The BBA also introduced with it some new Pokemon, being Arcaludon and Hydrapple, which can only be obtained by a new item and a new move, being the Strange Alloy, I believe it's called, and the move Dragon Cheer. This is an interesting new thing. They made an evolution for a Pokemon where they already added the evolution before. It's confusing. So essentially Hydrapple is Diplin's evolution, which was already a new form for it in the Teal Mask. Moving on, we've got new side content for you to partake in called BBQs, or Blueberry Quests, which will give you Blueberry Points, or BP. You can do these alone or with other players, and completing a Blueberry Quest, depending on what it is, will give you a certain number of Blueberry Points. Complete a certain number of them, and you'll get a special Blueberry Quest. And if you're playing with a group of people, if you complete enough of those, you'll get a group blueberry quest, which, thanks to my friends, I was able to record. One of the more special ones being finding ditto blocks throughout one of the biomes, where essentially a ditto will disguise itself as one of these unnatural blocks, and you have to find all of them in the specific biome. It's a pretty fun one. I got very lucky to get it, because some of these you'll get like the same one multiple times in a row, and it's not a fun one. You can reset blueberry quests by paying BP, but the group ones you can't. Another side thing you can do is after completing enough blueberry quests, you'll meet a man and he'll give you treats to attract legendary Pokemon to the Paldea region from older games. So like Ho-Oh, Lugia, Solgaleo, Lunala, Necrozma, Kyurem, Zekrom, Reshiram, stuff like that. They're shiny locked, which is like 90% of the reason, 99% of the reason you'd buy the DLC for these older Pokemon, especially ones that were just added in the last game and were shiny locked already, like Cubfu, Glacier, Specterior, ones like that, where they were already shiny locked, and you know, the whole reason to add them into this one would be so you can hunt them. All it takes is unchecking or checking a checkbox to save. They can be encountered that way as shiny, so this is just them being greedy. In the BBA, there's a school club room for people who battle. This is something you can spend your battle points on. There's a few things to do in here. You can redecorate the room, buy some upgrades for the terrarium, like unlocking starter Pokemon to spawn inside the terrarium from older games. You can also encounter some of the students or the Elite Four members inside once a day and battle them. You can buy custom emotes or new ways to throw your Pokeballs when you're battling or trying to catch something. A new machine called the what is it called? The item printer. Lets you combine Pokemon drops and BP to print items, and sometimes have a chance to print rare Pokeballs, like the Apricorn Balls, Dream Ball, Beast Ball, and the Master Ball even. I got like 3 Master Balls just from printing on this thing. The odds are pretty good. You can also invite special coaches to the club room to battle or to trade Pokemon with. And sometimes even get special items like Clive's wig, Jacques the biology teacher's glasses, special phone cases, and each of the Pokemon they trade has a ribbon to say that they were the previous owner of it. Yeah, this is a fun side thing you can do. It really fleshes out some characters that really didn't have a ton of characterization to begin with. And, you know, it's a fun way to rebattle people. It just stinks that you need so much BP to invite some of them. And you can only invite 2 at a time. And you can only invite one of them once per day. But what I mean by that is you can only invite a specific person once per day and interact with them. You need to invite them 3 times to get every interaction. But you only need to battle them 1 time, so that's pretty nice if you're just trying to complete it with as minimal effort as possible. Another random side thing you can do is find the mythical Pokemon Meloetta in the Blueberry Academy. The terrarium, it's really weird. You have to look up a guide, otherwise you're never going to find it. You get a special item called the Synchro Machine, which is how we got a lot of these weird things. It essentially lets you control your Pokemon directly for fun, but it's only usable inside the terrarium, so that's that's a drawback, but I can understand why at least. At least to some fun interactions, and you can play hide and seek, which is it's cool. You can be like a tiny Pokemon hiding somewhere as someone's trying to search for you. It's a fun time. There's also another action you can do after you beat the DLC. You can take Terapagos to the Crystal Pool in Kitakami and get a cutscene involving the actual professor, depending on which game you played, Sada or Toro, pulled from the past to you now, which explains something you read when you go to the depths of Area Zero at one point. You don't get much out of it, but it's a little bonus cutscene, and it unlocks another event, which is once you start the game up again, you get a new opening screen and a little post-game moment where you help the members of Team Star just try to get through school since their grades are down. So you tutor them. It's a little character moment. It fleshes them out. It's not anything major. You don't have to do anything to complete it, really. You just go through it. And it unlocks Atticus, who will stand in the Porto Marinado auction house selling special clothing, which are references to older games in the series.
Why do they look like they're discussing the price of a used car?
I think that about wraps it up on that front. So the music then. Yeah, the music's fine. It's as good as it always is. Some remixes from the Generation 5 games, which I've never played because they're ridiculously expensive. Because you know how releasing old games works when you don't make more copies of them anymore. But yeah, the music's very good. They mix in a lot of motifs from those games, and even a few of the other ones, which I haven't picked up on, but it's still a cool reference for the people who do get it. And that's about it, I think. Since I usually combine, I don't give DLC its own score, I increase the score of the original game. My hypothetical score for Scarlet and Violet was like 7.
And for some reason you forgot to mention the original score you gave the game was 4.2.
Yeah, that's the score I'd give this all together. The score I'd give Scarlet and Violet plus its DLC altogether is 7 points. It's still got a lot of issues, and they have a lot of ways to go, but it's a fun experience. Is the DLC worth $35 after all this? It's about the length of one of the 3DS games, so yeah, I'd say it's worth $35. The 2 waves of the DLC. And with that, I think that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Have a good afternoon, good evening, good night. See you in the next one.